Hey everyone, what's up? It's Babylonius from peakofserenity.com, here with another video to talk about Windwalker monk spell abilities. You can see in the Spellbook I covered a video with the monk tab, so now I'm going to cover the Windwalker tab in this video. I'm not going to include any talents or covenant abilities as they will get their own videos. So be sure to be on the lookout for those videos if you're looking for information about that. So we will dive right in. I'll talk a little bit about each ability, how you use it, what it does, stuff like that. So let's get right in there. So Chi Wave and Diffuse Magic are both talents. I'm not going to worry about them now. They'll have their own video. Disable is the first ability in the Windwalker tab. It's an incredibly useful ability in PvP and an incredibly useless ability in PvE. So if you are somebody that enjoys to PvP, get used to using it. What it does is it slows your target by 50% for 15 seconds, and any melee damage that you deal or melee attacks that you deal to them will refresh its debuff. So you can reasonably use it once and keep it up on them the whole time. The biggest strength that it has is that when you use it on a target that's already slowed or snared, they will be rooted for a period of time, which is very useful to help you keep up with targets that are trying to run away from you. And it's a big part of what makes Windwalker an incredibly difficult spec to run away from in PvP. Fist of the White Tiger is a talent. I'll cover that in a separate video. Fist of Fury is one of our primary kind of classic damage abilities. You can see right here, this is what Fist of Fury looks like. A lot of punches. Deals damage 8 yards out and in a cone in front of you. It deals 100% of the damage that you would deal to your primary target, the target that you have when you press the button, as well as 50% on up to 4 other targets. The tooltip currently says 5, but we have found that it has been 4, although this certainly may have been fixed by the time that you watch this video, as I'm not going to shoot the entire video again just for that change. So it costs 3 chi. It has a 24-second cooldown that is reduced by haste. It's generally the ability that you're going to want to keep on cooldown, whether it's single target or AoE abilities. There are other shenanigans like during Weapons of Order and Storm Earth and Fire where you might cancel Fist of Fury in order to take advantage of the fact that your clones will still cast it, but I'll talk about that in a separate video, probably devoted to doing just that. Next is Flying Serpent Kick. Flying Serpent Kick is one of our big movement abilities. As you can see, you can use it to zip around. It moves a very far distance in a second and a half. It's one of the best movement abilities in the game in terms of linear movement. What it does is you press it, and for a minute and a half, you just zoom. If you decide to, you can cancel it early, and when you do, it deals very small amount of damage to targets around you. It will debuff them with Mystic Touch, which I'll talk about, which I talked about in the previous video, since it's a passive ability. And the biggest thing for using Flying Serpent Kick is that it can keep your mastery going, and I'll talk more about mastery when I get to it. So if you use Blackout Kick and say everything else is off cooldown, you can jump, hit Flying Serpent Kick twice, and Blackout Kick again to keep your mastery going. The reason you jump is because it makes sure that you don't move anywhere. If you don't jump, no matter how quick you press with it, you're going to move a distance which might put you behind your target, in front of your target, a variety of things. So the easiest thing to do is just to jump if you're going to cancel it right away for that reason. So next we have Invoke Zuen, also known as Kenny, is his nickname from the old IRC days back before Discord existed. Don't ask me. I barely remember why he was named Kenny, just like Zuen is Dave. Neo Zhao is Dave, the Brewmaster Celestial. So Invoke Zuen is our Celestial. He had been a talent, and now he's a baseline ability, just like all of the monk specs in Shadowlands got a baseline Celestial ability. And what he does is you summon him, he attacks with you. He attacks your target with single target claws, as well as Tiger Lightning to up to 3 targets within 10 yards. His biggest change going into Shadowlands was the fact that every 4 seconds he takes 10% of any damage you deal and deals that 10% additionally to those targets. So if you deal 100 damage, after 4 seconds, he'll deal 10 more damage to any target that you hit. or the targets that you dealt that damage to, I should say. So it ends up being a very small amount, but it's not negligible, so it's something that you're going to want to be attentive to and try to maximize the use of that ability. It can be very useful to do so. Ring of Peace is a talent, so I won't worry about that. Rising Sun Kick is our primary single target ability. You press it, looks like that. Nice backflip with a little purple coloring to it. Or depending on the glyph that you have, it changes colors. But you'll see that it's a nice backflip. It's our big single target damage ability. Right now it's one of the biggest damage abilities we have, and it's an ability that you're going to generally want to keep on cooldown as often as possible. There are certain situations that I'll talk about in another video where multiple targets where you're going to drop Rising Sun Kick out of your rotation. But again, I'll talk about that in another video. It costs 2 chi, has a 10-second cooldown that's reduced by haste, and again, it's going to be something that you're going to want to use on cooldown as often as possible. Next, we have Spearhead Strike. This is a Windwalker's primary interrupt ability, similar to the interrupts that any melee specs have. Interrupts the target, prevents them from casting any spell from that school of magic for 4 seconds. It has a 15-second cooldown. You're going to use this in PvP and PvE. You'll use it in raids. A little bit less, but you'll use it in Mythic Plus and PvP, certainly, arenas, battlegrounds, rather consistently because there's always things casting. So get used to using it, put it in a comfortable place, and get used to using it as often as you need it. Storm, Earth, and Fire is Windwalker's kind of iconic DPS cooldown ability. You can see that it looks like this. You control the Storm Spirit. You have the Earth Spirit over here and the Fire Spirit over here. And what they do is they copy your abilities. So if I Rising Sun Kick, they Rising Sun Kick. Each Spirit deals 45% damage that you normally would. So if you normally deal 1,000 damage with, say, Rising Sun Kick, your Rising Sun Kick will deal 450 damage, as well as each clone's. So what that does is it adds up to an increase of about 135% damage, or a 35% increase over what you would normally be doing. So that makes it Windwalker's more powerful damaging ability to use. There's a lot of wonkiness with it, and I'll talk about that. I think it's probably going to deserve its own video, certainly, to talk about that. But the biggest thing for Windwalkers, and you'll see, is that when I press it, and I press a single target ability, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, they jump all over the place. And what that does is it spreads Mark of the Crane for your targets, and kind of tries to they surprisingly intelligently maximize your Mark of the Crane on targets. There's other bugs that allow them to keep those stacks up even after they're gone, but those will definitely get talked about in another video. But that's kind of one of its biggest utility things, is that they cover a lot of ground and they mark targets for you better than you could mark targets yourself. So it's a very useful damage increase, albeit has one that has historically been a very big pain in the butt in terms of the way that it uses. But again, I'll cover that in another video. So Tiger's Lust is a talent, won't cover that. Touch of Karma puts a shield on yourself like this. Not the black and white thing, that's because I have it macroed to Fort Brew, but this Karma icon above you. And what it does is any damage dealt to you is absorbed up to 50% of your health, and then 70% of that damage is dealt to the target that you put Touch of Karma on. So even if other targets come and hit you, it kind of funnels the damage into that target. It's a very useful defensive ability. Its primary use is defensive. It's meant to be a defensive ability with an offensive benefit. However, certainly if you're comfortable in a fight and you feel you don't need it defensively, you can use it as an offensive ability, whether to just help your healers out a little bit more and reduce the damage you take, or you might stand in something and take more damage than you normally would in order to deal a very small amount more damage to your target through Touch of Karma. So that can be very useful when doing that. But again, that's something that, first and foremost, it is a defensive ability that you can use offensively if you so choose. So understand, that if you use it offensively and then you really need it defensively, that's kind of your fault. Whirling Dragon Punch is a talent. Won't need to cover that. Afterlife is a very important spell and one that's often overlooked for Windwalkers. Afterlife is integral to Windwalker's survival out in the world. When you're fighting multiple targets, when you're fighting anything out in the world, when you kill it, it spawns a small green orb on the ground that you can walk over to heal yourself. This is very, very useful when fighting large targets. If you're fighting a target that is beyond your capabilities, you can often defeat it still you intelligently using these abilities, but also using Afterlife. If you bring a bunch of small targets over, you can create a nice little pillow, a nice little circle of Afterlife orbs that you can walk over when you need to while fighting something big. It is a reasonable heal. For example, right now this is a little bit less than 10% of my health. So it's better than nothing, but it's nice that it's automatic and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's something that a skilled monk will get a lot of use out of when questing out in the world. It's not something you're going to get a lot of use out of in instanced content like raids or dungeons or PvP, battlegrounds, arenas, stuff like that. But when you're out questing, it is an absolute lifesaver of an ability. So next is Mastery Combo Strikes, and that's Windwalker's Mastery. And what it does, as you can see, abilities will deal a percentage more damage as long as it's not a repeat of the previous one. So if I use Tiger Palm, as you can see right here, this tells me what I just used. Rising Sun Kick, Mastery still going, Fist of the White Tiger, Fist of Fury, stuff like that. Mastery is great. However, if I use Tiger Palm back to back, the second one does not get the Mastery bonus. So the second one will do less damage. So for example, that did 16,000 damage. If I press it again, well, it crit. If I press it again, it did 14,000 damage, right? So it's useful for you to keep up. It's just free damage, and it's what makes Windwalker, gives Windwalker kind of the unique play style that it has and that a lot of people enjoy. There are certainly situations where it makes sense to ignore your mastery, use a Tiger Palm back-to-back or a Blackout Kick back-to-back or a Spinning Crane Kick back-to-back. However, those situations are going to be few and far between, and they're going to be ones that is up to your best judgment. There's not a hard rule that I can give you as to when to do that, but it's something that comes with skill and practice and understanding of how the spec works. So mastery, generally for most players, you're going to want to do what you can to keep your mastery going. Finding the balance between using your resources and not overcapping them, right? You don't want to overcap resources. You want to have enough for abilities with cooldowns, and you want to keep mastery going. And those are the three big secrets to Windwalker damage. The last thing is called Windwalking. It is a passive ability that all Windwalkers have, and anyone within 10 yards gets a 10% movement speed increase. It's very little, but it's not nothing. Back in days of yore, we had a enchant that we could put on our boots that increased our movement speed by 8%, and that movement speed was considered essential. You could not raid without that enchant most of the time. It's not going to save your life all the time. It's not going to be the same as Roll or Flying Serpent Kick or Transcendence. But what it does is it helps everybody around you. That 10% more might be the difference for some people of getting out of mechanics or not. It's not going to stop the stupid, but it's going to help the stupid or the slow a little bit. So it does not stack, unfortunately, with other movement increases like Windrush Totem or Stampeding Roar. However, it's passive. It's always there. And it's better than nothing. So, it's not going to be super useful, but it's something that's always there and just kind of a nice cushion. So that's all of the Spellbook's things for Windwalkers. Thank you for watching part 2 of my videos on it. Make sure you check out the other videos on my channel. Like and subscribe if you like the content and want to be notified when I add other things to my channel. I also post kill videos from raids, as well as I'm working on, obviously, a lot more guides to come throughout the days of the week. So make sure to do that. If you want to watch me stream, the information is on screen, and I'll also put it inside the description. Same with Twitter and stuff like that. You can support myself and the website and the Discord through Patreon or PayPal. That information will also be below. And ultimately, for more information about Windwalkers or Brewmasters or Mistweavers, check out peakofserenity.com or the Peak of Serenity Monk Discord with a lot of good resources to help you learn the spec and get more information about some things you can do to play your monk better. So thank you very much again for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. And until next time, have a good night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are.